I think it's helpful to talk about the issue about being self-conscious while making a revolution and looking back on the revolutions after they have occurred. During the Industrial Revolution, people were aware things were changing. But it probably was not entirely clear until about the middle of the 1800s what a powerful effect the Industrial Revolution was having on the world. So it took 60, 70 years to understand the impact once that revolution began. So that's one point regarding the Industrial Revolution and self-consciousness. People were not self-conscious about it until maybe about 60 or 70 years later. And then you begin to see people thinking much more self-consciously about it. Now, about the American Revolution, people were not terribly self-conscious about that as the Enlightenment Revolution, because it seemed like some revolution between England and the colonial people. But now, perhaps, by some interpretations, that revolution outshines the French Revolution. You can argue about that, because they're only within a decade of one another. But the issue about self-consciousness and revolution is extremely important to the French Revolution because, as I said, with the Industrial Revolution, they didn't begin to realize the meaning of the new industry until later, 60, 70 years later. And then maybe almost more than a century later for the American Revolution. But for the French Revolution, even while it was happening, not only France, but all of Europe was extremely self-conscious that this was a new moment in history. There is a quote here in this book by Eric Hobsbawm about the French and Industrial Revolutions. He is quoting from a newspaper on the day of the outbreak of the revolution, on the day that the Bastille fell and symbolized freedom for the French people. This was written in England on that same day in the major newspaper, the Morning Post. And here is the quote: "An Englishman not filled with esteem and admiration at the sublime manner in which one of the most important revolutions the world has ever seen must be dead to every sense of virtue and of freedom. Not one of my countrymen who has had the good fortune to witness the transaction of the last few days in the great city of France, but will testify that my language is not hyperbolical." So the person who wrote this article for the Morning Post in England after the fall of the Bastille, is already saying, we already know this is the most important revolution the world has ever seen. There was no way that the French Revolution was not going to have a much broader international impact on how people think about freedom. There was no way it was not going to have a larger impact, because already at the moment when the French begin to receive their independence, other European powers are already thinking about it. And then also we'll see all other kinds of countries in the world will begin to think about beginning to become free from kings or nobility and have more democratic or republican forms of government.